Hey everyone, me Kevin here. It is official, the stimulus package has passed, and I have spent all day long, I'm 4 coffees down into breaking down this entire stimulus package by going through the bill itself. And folks, I'm excited to report to you a comprehensive overview of everything that is in the bill that has officially passed the House and the Senate. And we are expecting Donald Trump to sign this. Technically, Donald Trump still has to sign. He's already said he's willing to sign, and he's ready to sign when it comes to his desk. So in this video, we are assuming Donald Trump has already signed. Let's get through all of the details and a comprehensive overview of what's in this bill. But I do want to start by mentioning what's next. Chuck Schumer, the Democrat minority leader in the Senate, and Mitch McConnell, the Republican majority leader in the Senate, have both individually said that more is to come. The next stimulus package will come in January. We're not sure what's going to be in this, but Chuck Schumer told us if Biden believes we'll need $1,200 stimulus checks, we'll do $1,200 stimulus checks. And that's because Schumer thinks that Biden is more involved with Congress, or will be more involved with Congress, and will be able to pressure Republicans to go for those larger stimulus checks. Whether that happens, we'll see. But for now, let's talk about what's actually in the bag and what's not in the bag. The biggest things that are not in the bag: state and local government money, direct funding is not in this bill, and liability protections for businesses are not in this bill. Those will be the basis for the next stimulus package. What we do, though, have is flexibility for state and local governments, and they get some aid in other ways as well, like through unemployment programs and vaccine distribution money. Let's focus, though, specifically on what we get. Let's jump right into the flow chart so we can understand all the details about what we're going to get. I made a beautiful flow chart with everything and a comprehensive overview, so that way this is one consolidated video that you can watch and get everything in. So here's what we've got. $600 in stimulus checks per adult. That's $1,200 per married filing jointly couple. $600 per child dependent that has not yet attained the age of 17. If a child has attained the age of 17 by the time this passes, they would not be eligible for that $600. This also means that college students, adult dependents, senior dependents, they do not qualify for the $600. Now, this income eligibility is going to be based on your 2019 tax return. If you did not qualify based on your 2019 tax return because your income was higher, and in 2020 your income is lower, then you'll be able to claim this when you file your 2020 taxes. It would be a tax refund at that time. If you haven't filed 19 yet, they'll look at 18. And if you haven't been filing your taxes, you might still be able to get a stimulus check through the other sources, which we'll talk about just in a moment. In fact, we've got the list right here. Seniors who receive income from Social Security, they will get their stimulus checks based on income reported by, well, Social Security. Railroad retirees, same thing. Veterans who rely on disability, same thing. If you get more than you are entitled to, like I remember, in March and April, we started seeing stimulus checks, well, probably more like April. We saw some people get larger stimulus checks than they were entitled to. You do not have to pay this money back. The text also indicates that the money cannot be garnished for federal, state, or bank debts. However, child support is an allowable garnishment. ITIN family members will not disqualify the entire family. However, individual children with socials or spouses with socials can get the stimulus check. The ITIN individual does not get the stimulus check. Now, if you did not yet receive your original stimulus check, you can claim this on your 2020 tax return. Also, these are the income thresholds. You have to make less than $75,000 as a single or $150,000 married filing joint to get the full benefit. Otherwise, the benefit phases out by approximately these incomes right here on screen. Furthermore, the stimulus checks are not taxed, and we expect to get them by the week of the 28th. In fact, Mnuchin says that they will go out the week of the 28th, potentially even that Monday. The IRS has already said direct deposits will go out before December 31st. All payments will go out by January 15th. Paper checks and debit cards will go out between now and January 15th at a rate of $10 million per week. So obviously direct deposit is going to be the fastest. There does not appear to be a double dip exclusion. So if you get unemployment, you're still going to be eligible to receive the stimulus check. Speaking of unemployment, let's jump into that. We've got $300 per week at 11 weeks with a revised ending date of March 14th, 2021. If you start getting your benefits after March 14th, you'd be able to keep getting your benefits through April 5th. All forms of unemployment will be extended by 11 weeks. So that means PEUC and PUA will all be extended through 50 weeks in total. So that's an extra 11 weeks. This will begin December 27th with no waiting week. Additionally, this provision from the FEMA unemployment program where you had to get at least $100 in state aid in order to qualify for the boost, that is gone. That does not apply to this act. Additionally, to get the $100 mixed status boost, this is for people who have a self-employed job and a W-2 job. The best way to understand this is by example, and this will help you understand if you could potentially get $300 a week plus $100 a week. So here's how this would work. Let's say you make $1,000 per month from your job and $1,000 per month from self-employment. Now you're unemployed. And at this rate, if let's say you were in Florida as an example, you would only be able to qualify for unemployment based on the $1,000 per month that you made at your job, which would mean you'd qualify for $115 of state unemployment. But the max benefit in the state of Florida is $275. But you're only getting $115 because your employed income is only $1,000 per month. Well, if all of your income, from self-employment and like your side hustle and your job was $2,000 per month, you'd get a lot more. You'd get $231 per month in unemployment. This kind of creates a hole for these mixed income individuals. And so the $100 boost helps solve that if you are a mixed income individual. There will also be provisions that require you have a good cause to say that you will not go back to work if you are offered a job. There is no retroactive unemployment. On PPP loans, we will have a second draw, which will only require a 25% reduction in revenue for the second draw between a similar quarter of 2019 to 2020. You have to have 300 or fewer employees. There are a lot of new PPP provisions for items that are included, like damage from riots, property damage, things like that are actually now included under the PPP, along with many other provisions. I'll probably do a standalone video on the PPP, but the big thing is all PPP loans and expenses related to those PPP loans will be tax deductible. This basically creates a double tax benefit. I won't fully explain that in this video, but it's basically double dipping. Just a quick example, imagine you got a $5,000 computer replaced for you by the government. So you basically got a $5,000 computer, right? They would say, on top of you getting that $5,000 computer, hey, why don't you take a tax write-off as well as if you paid for it? Because that's kind of what's happening with the PPP. The government's giving you, say, $5,000 for that $5,000 computer if you're even spending that much on a computer. They're giving you $5,000. You're paying the $5,000 for the computer, basically, but it's not your money. And the government's still letting you take a tax write-off. So realistically, you're getting $5,000 plus the money you're saving on taxes, which could be $1,500, $2,000 on top of that, 30, 40%, something like that as a business owner. The tax benefit of the PPP alone is almost worth taking the PPP. It's incredible. $15 billion will go to live venue operators. Also, the EIDL. So the EIDL, this is a little tricky. We've got two ways to get the EIDL here. And what I've done is I've made a complete standalone video for the EIDL, but I want to give you a comprehensive overview in this video. So here's just a quick overview. For more details, I will link down below the detailed 2 methods that you can use to get EIDL grants. Method number 1 works if you live in an area that is considered a low-income area. I defined that in the other video. And you have an income reduction of 30%. If you qualify with those 2 rules, you can get up to $10,000 for having a side hustle or small business. You don't have to have an LLC. You don't have to have an S corporation. You don't have to have employees. You could get up to $10,000, totally free money, don't have to pay it back. That's method 1. Again, I'll link that video down below for more details. Method 2 is you can get a $1,000 EIDL grant for every employee you have at your small business. If it's just you, you got 1 employee. You and your wife, 2 employees. You, your wife, and 1 employee, that's 3 employees for your small business. That means you would get $1,000, $2,000, or $3,000. And more details to come on that when the SBA actually comes out with an approval for that. Surprise billing for medical expenses has been ended, or it's been made a lot more complicated. Doctors for emergency medical procedures like emergency anesthesia or air ambulances, these things are now going to have to be properly negotiated so that you only pay reasonable amounts instead of being billed for out-of-network charges with incredibly exorbitant fees. More details to come on that, but that is the surprise billing provision. Then we have $54 billion going to K through 12 schools, $2.75 billion going through private K through 12 schools. The balance is going to higher education. That was a point of contention, but that has now been solved. $45 billion going to transportation, with $15 billion going to airlines, $1 billion for Amtrak, $2 billion for airports within that $45 billion, $35 billion for the healthcare relief fund. The SNAP program benefit is getting a 15% boost for 4 months. This is a $13 billion segment for nutrition and hunger. We've got $175 million going to services like Meals on Wheels, $13 million going to the commodity supplemental food program. We've got a 3% pay raise for the military. This, by the way, is part of the regular funding bill. It's not part of the stimulus bill. There are, sometimes it seems like these are blended together because the bill's like 5,500 pages long, but that's part of the government funding bill, but it is something nice to mention as well. Vaccine distribution, $20 billion for vaccine purchases, $8 billion for distribution. Childcare, $10 billion in childcare grants. Pandemic EBT, covering families with children in childcare under certain income thresholds, is in here as well. We do notice that the USPS provisions are gone, so no funding that I could find in the bill for USPS provisions. Energy tax credits. A lot of energy tax credits in here. They're extending, for example, the home solar tax credits. They are trying to study and research what it would mean to integrate electric vehicles into the electric grids of our communities. Like, what impact does that have on batteries and stability for the grid to prevent power outages? They're commissioning a study to do specifically that. All right, $10 billion for the Community Lenders Act. Rental assistance. I have a standalone video for rental assistance. Basically, the eviction ban is extended through January 31st. Joe Biden can extend this. If you're looking for rental assistance because you're a landlord and you have a tenant who's behind in rent, or you are a tenant who is behind in rent, or you are a tenant who's behind on utilities or just home-related expenses, or you will be behind on rent and utilities going forward in the future, very important that you watch the standalone rental assistance video. It'll give you a lot of guidance on how to apply, what to expect for the process, where the money's got to go, how important it is to apply early for this program, the income requirements, all of that in the standalone video. Student loans. I actually could not find a provision in the bill for student loans. I was a little surprised by that. There are things like FAFSA application, but I didn't see the extension of student loan forbearance. I know right now the Secretary of the Education Department did extend student loan forbearance through the end of January, but I didn't see the April extension we were expecting in here. Then we've got tax credits for the earned income tax credit and child tax credit. If your income in 2020 is very, very low, you can choose to use your income from 2019 to claim the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit. And these scale based on how much income you make. For example, you could pause the screen here and screenshot this. This will kind of give you a little bit of an idea. You could also obviously Google the earned income tax credit, the child tax credit. These are all based on having income to be able to get these credits. The employee retention credit. This had a big, big, big change. $10,000 per person per quarter as a credit. And the credit is 50% of qualified wages, up to 50% of qualified wages, an employer would be paying between March 12th through January 21st, 2021. You could get immediate access to this. You could use Form 7200 to get the advance of the employer credit due to COVID. To be eligible, you would have to have a 70% decline in revenue for the same period compared to 2019. It actually used to be 50% decline, so they've made this a lot easier for you to get. And then it ends once you get back to 80%. Generally, the rule is that qualified wages include healthcare costs up to $10,000 per employee and wages, so healthcare costs, plans, and wages. I only read the section for employers with 100 or fewer employees. If you got more than that, you probably got a CPA doing all this for you. Special rules also were cleaned up if you get the PPP as well. We've got paid sick leave, new tax credits that are going to be very similar to the Families First Act, where you would get, basically your employer would get credits to give you paid leave. If you get COVID and you have symptoms, 2 weeks of paid leave, 2 weeks of paid leave at 2/3 pay. If you have to care for someone like a child or someone under quarantine, an additional 10 weeks of paid or expanded family leave if schools or child providers are shut down. This is why they're spending so much money on schools and childcare, to make sure those are open. Pell Grant expansion, 500,000 new recipients and 1.5 million students will now get the maximum benefit. Business meals deduction. This is also nicknamed the 3 Martini lunch. You get to fully deduct business meals for 2 years between December 31st, 2020 and January 1st, 2023. So business meals will be fully deductible. Medical expense deduction will drop to 7.5% of your income instead of 10%. $1.4 billion for the border law. Beer, wine, liquor tax cuts are getting extended 5 years approximately. I've got to verify that section. I was just working on that section and I stopped writing it. Then if you took the payroll tax deferral via Donald Trump or you're a federal employee and you were forced to, your payback periods are extended. One portion is extended from December 31st of this year through April 30th of next year, and the other portion is extended from May 1st, 2021 to January 22nd. So you get more time to pay that back. The CARES lending facilities with the Federal Reserve, basically the verbiage now just says that the Federal Reserve cannot remake the same programs that they made under the CARES Act, but they didn't get stripped of provisions or protections or tools that they had from before the CARES Act. So there you go, folks. That's everything we've got. Thank you so much for watching. Consider sharing the video if you found it helpful. Consider subscribing, and we will see you in the next video.